There exists a moment in every human interaction when power shifts silently from one person to another, when influence moves like electricity through invisible wires, when someone gains control of the conversation without raising their voice or making demands. Most people never notice these moments because they are too busy talking, explaining, justifying, trying to convince. They exhaust themselves with elaborate arguments and passionate appeals, yet they wonder why their words fall on deaf ears, why people resist their ideas, why influence eludes them despite their best efforts. Meanwhile, someone else in the room speaks 6 simple words and everything changes. Attention focuses, resistance melts, people lean forward, suddenly engaged, suddenly willing to listen. What are these 6 words? What power do they possess? And why did Niccolo Machiavelli, observing the deadly game of power in Renaissance Italy, understand their devastating effectiveness 5 centuries before modern psychology confirmed his insights? The 6 words are deceptively simple. What do you think about this? These words, spoken at precisely the right moment, with genuine curiosity rather than manipulation, unlock something fundamental in human nature that Machiavelli understood better than almost anyone in history. He spent years watching princes and popes, merchants and generals, observing who gained power and who lost it, who commanded loyalty and who inspired betrayal. From these observations, he extracted principles that remain brutally relevant today. Among his most profound insights was this: people are not moved by your ideas, but by their own. They do not care about what you want, but about what they want. They will not follow your vision unless they believe it is somehow their vision too. These 6 words create that transformation, that shift from your idea to our idea, from resistance to participation, from passive listening to active engagement. Consider what happens psychologically when someone asks you genuinely what you think about something. A cascade of responses occurs in your brain, most of them unconscious. First, you feel valued. Someone cares about your opinion, which means they recognize you as someone whose thoughts matter. This recognition satisfies one of the deepest human needs, the need to be seen, to be acknowledged, to have significance. Second, you shift from a defensive posture to a creative one. When someone presents you with their complete plan and asks you to accept it, your mind immediately begins generating objections, finding flaws, protecting your autonomy by resisting. But when someone presents an incomplete idea and asks for your input, your mind shifts into problem-solving mode. You begin to think about possibilities rather than objections. You become a collaborator rather than a judge. Machiavelli would recognize this dynamic immediately because he observed it constantly in the courts of Florence. The princes who succeeded were not necessarily the most brilliant or the most forceful, but those who made others feel invested in their success. They understood that loyalty cannot be commanded, but must be cultivated through carefully making people feel that they have a stake in your outcomes. When you ask someone what they think about your idea, you are offering them ownership. You are transforming them from a spectator into a participant, and people protect what they help create. They defend ideas they contributed to. They feel committed to outcomes they helped shape. This is not manipulation if done genuinely. It is recognition of how human psychology actually works, rather than how we wish it worked. The timing of these 6 words matters enormously. Ask too early before you have presented enough context, and people will not have enough information to offer meaningful input. Ask too late after you have already committed to a specific path, and your question will feel insincere, a mere formality before you do what you planned anyway. The sweet spot is the middle, when you have shared enough for people to understand the situation, but left enough open space for their thinking to matter. This requires genuine openness, real willingness to be influenced by what others say. People can detect insincerity with remarkable accuracy. If you ask what they think, but your body language, your tone, your subsequent responses all communicate that you have already decided and are merely going through motions, the 6 words lose their power. They become worse than useless. They become insulting. Machiavelli understood something else crucial about these words. They work not because they are magical, but because they address the fundamental human need to feel autonomous and significant. He wrote that men are anxious about their own interests and desires, not yours. They calculate constantly how every situation affects them personally. This is not selfishness in the moral sense, but simply how human psychology operates. We experience the world from inside our own consciousness, and our own needs, fears, and desires naturally occupy the center of our attention. When you present your ideas as complete packages requiring acceptance or rejection, you force people to calculate whether your idea serves their interests. Many will conclude it does not, or at least does not serve their interests, as well as some alternative. But when you ask what they think, you are inviting them to shape the idea so that it better serves their interests. You are turning potential opponents into collaborators, critics into co-creators. Modern research confirms what Machiavelli intuited. Studies on persuasion show that people are far more likely to support ideas they help develop, even if their contribution was minor. The IKEA effect demonstrates that people value things more highly when they have assembled them themselves, even if the assembly was simple and the instructions were provided. The same principle applies to ideas. An idea someone helped refine, even slightly, becomes their idea too. They have invested cognitive effort in it, and humans are remarkably motivated to justify their investments. Having publicly contributed to developing an idea, people experience cognitive dissonance if they later oppose it. The easier path psychologically is to continue supporting it, to see it through, to prove that their contribution was valuable. The 6 words also function as a diagnostic tool. When you ask what someone thinks, you gain invaluable information about their perspective, their concerns, their priorities. You learn what they value, what they fear, what objections they might raise. This intelligence allows you to adjust your approach, address concerns before they become deal breakers, frame your idea in terms that resonate with their specific worldview. Machiavelli emphasized the importance of understanding the terrain before battle, knowing your adversaries and allies, gathering intelligence before making moves. These 6 words are reconnaissance disguised as courtesy, information gathering masked as respect. There is an art to asking the question properly. The wrong tone ruins everything. Ask with impatience in your voice, and people hear, "I am asking out of obligation, but I really want you to just agree with me." Ask with desperation, and people hear weakness, which invites exploitation rather than collaboration. Ask with condescension, and people hear, "I am humoring you, but your opinion does not really matter." The effective tone is genuine curiosity combined with respect. You are asking because you actually want to know, because you recognize that other perspectives might reveal something you missed, because you understand that the person you are asking has knowledge, experience, or insight that could improve the outcome. Silence after asking the question is crucial. Many people ruin the power of these 6 words by filling the space that follows them. They ask what you think and then immediately start talking again, offering their own thoughts, guiding you toward the answer they want, eliminating the space for genuine response. This defeats the entire purpose. After asking what someone thinks, you must be comfortable with silence, with waiting, with giving them time to formulate their response. This silence serves multiple functions. It demonstrates that you are serious about wanting their input. It gives them space to think, rather than merely react. It shows respect for the cognitive work you're asking them to do, and it creates slight tension that makes their eventual response more significant, more weighted, more memorable. The 6 words work differently depending on the power dynamic between you and the person you are asking. When you have formal authority over someone, asking what they think can be especially powerful because it runs counter to their expectations. They expect you to command, to decide, to impose. When instead you ask for their input, you surprise them, disarm their defensive reactions, and create an opportunity for genuine dialogue rather than mere compliance. But the question must be genuine. If you ask subordinates what they think and then consistently ignore their input or punish them for disagreeing with you, they will quickly learn that your question is a trap. Future requests for input will be met with careful political responses designed to tell you what you want to hear rather than what they actually think. When you lack formal authority, when you are trying to influence peers or even superiors, These 6 words become even more essential. You cannot command, you can only persuade. And persuasion works best when people persuade themselves. By asking what they think, you are inviting them to persuade themselves, to find their own reasons for supporting your idea, to discover connections between your proposal and their goals. Machiavelli observed that the most successful courtiers were not those who flattered most lavishly, but those who made princes feel wise by asking for their counsel. A prince who believes an idea is partly his own will champion it far more vigorously than one who sees it as coming entirely from an advisor. The 6 words also protect you from a common trap, falling in love with your own ideas to the point where you cannot see their flaws. When you ask others what they think, you create an opportunity to discover problems before they become disasters. You gain the benefit of multiple perspectives, diverse experiences, different ways of seeing the situation. Some of the best ideas emerge from the collision of different viewpoints, the synthesis that happens when multiple minds engage with a problem. By asking what others think, you are not admitting weakness but demonstrating the confidence to expose your thinking to scrutiny and the wisdom to recognize that you might not have all the answers. There are situations where these 6 words would be inappropriate or ineffective. In genuine emergencies requiring immediate action, stopping to ask what everyone thinks wastes precious time. When you are dealing with someone who has proven themselves consistently untrustworthy or malicious, asking their opinion may simply give them ammunition to use against you. When the decision is truly yours alone to make and cannot be influenced by others' input, asking what they think creates false expectations and eventual resentment. The key is discernment, knowing when collaboration will strengthen your position and when decisive action is required. Machiavelli would add a warning. These words work best when your ultimate goals align reasonably well with those of the people you are asking. If you are pursuing something that directly harms their interests, no amount of asking what they think will transform them into allies. The 6 words create collaboration, not magic. They work by finding common ground, by helping people see how your success might also serve their interests, by creating genuine partnerships rather than extracting compliance through manipulation. When interests fundamentally conflict, when your gain necessarily means their loss, different strategies are required. Machiavelli was nothing if not realistic about such situations. The long-term benefit of habitually asking what others think extends beyond any single interaction. You develop a reputation as someone who values input, who listens, who takes others seriously. This reputation becomes an asset that opens doors, creates alliances, and gives you access to information and support that would otherwise be unavailable. People want to work with those who make them feel valued and heard. They avoid those who treat them as mere instruments to be used. By consistently asking what others think and genuinely considering their responses, you build social capital that compounds over time. Practice these 6 words in low-stakes situations first. Ask your partner what they think about weekend plans. Ask a colleague what they think about a new process. Ask a friend what they think about a decision you are considering. Notice what happens. Notice how people engage differently, how they shift from passive listeners to active participants, how the quality of conversation deepens. Notice also when you slip into asking insincerely, when you are going through motions rather than genuinely seeking input. The difference is palpable. Real curiosity creates real engagement. Performative curiosity creates suspicion and resistance. Machiavelli lived in a world where words were weapons, and a poorly chosen phrase could mean exile or death. He learned to weigh every word, to understand how language shapes perception and influences action. These 6 words, "What do you think about this?" contain within them a worldview that Machiavelli would recognize instantly. They acknowledge that power is not simply imposed but negotiated. That influence comes not from forcing your will on others, but from aligning their will with yours. That the appearance of collaboration often matters as much as its reality. They represent a sophisticated understanding of human nature, one that recognizes people's deep need to feel autonomous and significant, and leverages that need not through exploitation, but through genuine engagement. The next time you want to influence someone, to gain their support, To win them to your cause, resist the temptation to present your perfect plan and demand acceptance. Instead, present the situation, outline possibilities, and then ask these 6 words. Watch what happens. Watch how resistance softens, how engagement deepens, how someone who might have been an obstacle becomes an ally. This is not trickery, but wisdom, not manipulation, but recognition of how humans actually function. Machiavelli understood 5 centuries ago what neuroscience confirms today. We are not the rational creatures we imagine ourselves to be, calculating costs and benefits with computer-like precision. We are social beings, hungry for recognition, desperate for significance, longing to feel that our thoughts and opinions matter. Give people that gift through 6 simple words, and you gain something far more valuable than compliance. You gain genuine partnership, authentic engagement, and the kind of influence that does not require constant enforcement because it comes from within rather than being imposed from without.